What's up, everyone? Live here on the DNVR Rockies podcast, and we've got a special guest joining us today on the show. It is a Rockies center fielder, Brenton Doyle. Brenton, appreciate you taking the time, man, and joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, I want to dive right into it because we've got so much to talk about in very little time. First of all, congratulations, another Gold Glove award this year. I know that is something that you take very seriously. Your defense, your ability to play the outfield in a really competitive outfielding spot at Coors Field. So I want to ask you before we kind of dive into anything else, if you look back just a couple years ago, you were playing minor league baseball and now to see kind of how you've progressed. I know the confidence has always been there, when you play at an elite level like that, you know what you're capable of. But do you ever take a moment to just kind of take a step back and take note of where you are and the reality of the situation you're in right now?
Right. Like you said, defense has always been one of my strong suits in my game. And the Gold Glove is kind of like the holy grail award you can get for the defense perspective. But yeah, I think when you're in season in the moment, man, it's really hard to reflect on what's actually happening. And I really don't think it probably until a couple weeks after the season's done where you're kind of checking out some of your numbers and whatnot. And you're like, man, I played really hard out there and the numbers definitely show. And it's very deserving for sure, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun to get to watch you and some of the other outfielders that you guys have out there playing outfield. I want to ask specifically before we kind of talk a little bit about the future, but looking back to last year, was there a specific play that you had that stands out to you as like your favorite moment of last year defensively? Was there one play that sticks in your memory?
Man, I can go a lot of ways with this one because I had probably 3 or 4 I could really name that really stood out and I really enjoyed watching back and stuff. But I think the robbery in San Diego, Profar, was definitely up there with one of them. Just because one of my favorite outfielders of all time was Adam Jones, and the World Baseball Classic catch he had in San Diego was kind of near a similar spot. Mine's a little bit more towards right field, but that was one of my favorite catches growing up, and I somewhat replicated it a little bit, taking a home run away, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was definitely an exciting one. I think for me personally, when you guys were playing the Brewers and you had that catch, you were ranging over to right field, kind of caught it right in front of Beck and ended up just throwing it, said, screw the cutoff, man. I'm just going to Bo Jackson this all the way to third. Your arm strength is something that I think catches people by surprise sometimes, just because you're such an athletic outfielder that, you're known for robbing home runs, making diving catches, that kind of stuff. Is it, does that hold a special place in your heart defensively when you get to throw someone out, or is that just another tool in your tool belt?
I mean, it definitely is another tool I like to take advantage of for sure. But I mean, I just love the reactions of either the pitcher or the guy who I throw it to after they make the tag of the guy out. That fires me up more than me actually doing the throw or anything like that. Just seeing the reactions and firing the guys up for whatever it is, if it's the end of the game or if it's the next inning, just getting momentum on our side.
Yeah, God, it is. I know from experience, I used to pitch when I was playing college ball, and that, when you have a defense behind you that can make plays and get stops in the most unexpected ways too, it adds so much confidence. I want to talk a little bit about Coors Field specifically because, Coors Field, there's always that narrative about the altitude, playing defense in that position, pitching in Coors Field, all of that kind of stuff. But specifically just from an outfielder's perspective, how does Coors Field line up in your eyes in compared to playing at some of the other parks you play at? Harder, not as hard? What is your idea when it comes to dominating that center field at Coors?
Yeah. I mean, coming up, I always got talked about hey, this outfield's different, way more space. The ball flies a little bit more, a lot more range to cover. But I mean, I kind of just took that more as, motivation and an advantage to me, because I'm like, if I can, dominate this outfield, then these other ballparks I go to that are smaller are going to seem way smaller, and it's just going to make it easier for me. So I really took that as, like I said, motivation, and been grinding real hard to get a good feel for out there in center field. And I think I've gotten to a really good spot to where I'm super comfortable out there. And whenever I go to these other parks, it's cake.
Yeah, geez, I know. I was going to say the difference between playing center field at like Yankee Stadium versus, Coors Field, which I know you don't have a lot of crossover between those two parks, but it is a big contrast. And so I know it's impressive to see, how all of you guys can command the outfield. And it is nice to have a really good defensive set behind you, helping you out. Obviously, the infield for the Rockies is incredible. Multiple Gold Glove nominations, Tovar winning a Gold Glove this year as well. But talk to me a little bit about, getting to play outfield with guys like Nolan Jones, Jordan Beck, getting to see some of the young guys, coming through the ranks as well, and getting a chance, guys like Zach Veen, who might get a chance to play some outfield times. Does it add to your confidence knowing that you've got such a good core of defensive players to back you up out there?
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, our guys, we put in a lot of work. I mean, a lot of early work, take practices super seriously, more like really game like. So, props to all of us for, putting in the work. But yeah, it is exciting seeing the younger guys. I like to think I'm a younger guy still too, but like Jordan Beck and Nolan, I mean, these are guys that like you can see yourself playing around for a long time, and just building a relationship with them at such an early stage in our careers is going to be huge for us going forward. And you got some really good prospects that could debut here soon. So I was actually got to play with Bean a little bit in Double-A, so him and I have a pretty good relationship already. But yeah, there's a lot of good moving parts here in the organization, and it's really cool just to build a relationship so early in our careers with each other, and just build on it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Let's transition, though. I want to talk a little bit about your bat, because offensively, you definitely took a step up this second year, to your first year. You were batting, I think, somewhere around 206 or something like that. Through your first season, you bumped that up to 260. You're part of the 2020 club. What were the adjustments you made offensively this year? And also, what are some of the adjustments you want to build on after this last pretty successful offensive season for you?
Yeah. So this not this off season, but the last year's off season, I made some pretty good mechanical tweaks. During the season, I made some too, but it's really hard to make those tweaks in season when you got professional pitching coming at you. So I really needed to get in the off season space and slow everything down and really work on what swing is going to put me in the best spot to produce. And luckily, I did that, and had a really good year. And when you're hitting like that pretty consistently, I mean, the numbers are going to show for itself. The confidence is going to be through the roof, and that's what happened.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that kind of completed the whole package. A lot of Rockies fans, had seen and were introduced to your defense in your first year, and then, kind of got to see what the offense could do for you as well. So it was really cool to be able to see that become kind of a full package. But obviously, if you're looking at, last season, wins and losses aside, it was a frustrating year. But I think as the season progressed, there started to be some buzz of even just a little bit of confidence, when talking to some of the other players on the team about seeing some of the young guys, the youth movement, as we like to call it, some of the young pitchers, the bullpen staff that had come out. Did you feel that kind of, I don't know, a little bit of an extra boost of confidence of like, yeah, wins and losses aside, that part was tough, but we feel kind of good about how things were starting to blossom towards the end of the year, and that could springboard us into next year and beyond?
Yes, 100%. And I think, like you mentioned, our bullpen, the young arms that, got the call up and instantly helped produce from, I mean, the Halverson, the Jaden Hill, Chavilli, Victor Vodnik. I mean, they're electric out of the bullpen. And, we kind of got to the point later in the year where it's like, if we have a lead in the seventh forward, like we're pretty confident we're going to end up winning the game. And to have all those guys super young as well is very, very awesome to see.
Yeah, it is. And it gives you a lot of, anticipation. I remember talking to Kyle Freeland, towards the end of the season, and he was saying, like, hey, look, I feel kind of like a broken record saying, hey, next year is going to be a step in the right direction. He's like, but I really do feel like things are moving forward, because so many of these guys who have been floating around in the minors for years now are starting to, kind of pop up and get some big league experience. And so you can only kind of grow from that. And there's also still a lot of other guys that haven't even made their appearance yet that, have a lot of promise. So I know that builds a lot of confidence as you get ready for next year. But, if I'm sure if I asked you this question, you'd probably say, our goal is to get to the playoffs. Like that's the number one goal. So playoffs aside, for you specifically, when you look towards next year, what is your goal personally for you, and also your team goal that you kind of want to work towards next year? Again, playoffs aside, what is your goal that you want to attack next season?
So personally, I don't really set too many goals for myself. I literally try to take it day by day and just go out there and play the hardest I can, and let everything take care of itself. And then team wise, I mean, I think we just keep building around each other and really getting to play with each other every single day, especially with some of the new guys that might be coming up next year, and really building a good culture and foundation in the clubhouse that can transfer onto the field. I think is the biggest thing for us.
Yeah. Is there a specific guy that you're most excited to either have gotten to play with a little bit, one of the new guys who you got to play with a little bit, towards the end of last year, or that you haven't played with, but that you're really looking forward to? Is there a guy that pops out to you that you're really looking forward to playing with next year?
I really enjoy playing with my guys out in the outfield, Nolan Jones and Jordan Beck, and sometimes Hunter Goodman. But I think some of the arms we have coming up, the Chase Dolander or Carson Palmquist, I think these guys can really help impact us immediately. And starting pitching is a big part of the game. And I think if we can, get some really good starters up there, and I think it will be really good for us.
Yeah, totally. I know there's a lot to be hopeful for next year and excited for, I think, in a lot of the young guys. And I think it's kind of where an organization is when you're trying to rebuild, reconstruct, kind of get things back in a winning pace. But talk to me a little bit about your relationship with Bud Black, because I know, him getting another extension here this year, going to be on at least for another year with the Rockies. I know there's been a lot of conversation from fans of, people who really like Bud Black and think that he is a good fit for Colorado, and some people who are frustrated with that. But specifically from your perspective, what's your relationship like with Bud over the last couple years?
Yeah, I was super fortunate to have Bud as my first big league manager. I mean, he makes sure that you're feeling comfortable, you're feeling at home, and great guy on and off the field. Always asks about my family, and always tries to push me on the field, which is huge out of the manager. You can't get complacent, and if you have a guy that's constantly trying to get you better at your craft, then it's huge. And Bud checks all those boxes.
Yeah, I know it's going to be weird not having Charlie Blackmon in the locker room with you guys, out on the field with you guys sometimes, or even just in the lineup with you guys. Is there any mental shift for you, knowing that, you guys have lost a leader in the clubhouse and someone who's been a big output for the Rockies over the years? Is there any shift in your mentality as you approach this next season to step up to kind of replace that?
I mean, 100%. Charlie was, the definition of a leader, especially in our clubhouse. And, someone's or a couple of us are going to have to, take the spot and be vocal, or either, whether it's, saying something or speaking up, or doing it on the field. And I know we have a lot of guys that have the potential to step up and kind of take the role. I'm not going to say you can never replace a Charlie Blackmon, but, you can kind of replicate, what he was to the team. And, some of us are going to have to, take that role.
Yeah, I know. And I know Rockies fans are going to miss hearing his walk-up song and seeing him out there. I mean, it's just the iconic vibe that Charlie Blackmon brings. But, we're really excited about a lot of the young prospects, Tovar, even guys like Ryan McMahon, who, are hoping to build off of a year last year. But I want to transition into talking a little bit about some fan questions, because we did have some fans submit some questions that they wanted me to ask you. So let's dive right into it. First question comes out talking about your outfield. Someone asks, what's your favorite outfield drill to improve your defense?
So for me, I think live BP is where I put most of my attention and most of my effort, because I think during BP, not live BP, but just BP in general, that's the most consistent way you can simulate the game. Taking balls off the bat, off guys in your lineup that hit the ball well, and fungo drills and all that are great, but I think hitting a lot, or getting reads off a live baseball off the bat is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I love that. Do you as a follow up, do you spend a lot of time working on like hitting your cutoffs or anything like that, or are you more of a guy that kind of is anti cutoff, just to try to go all the way?
I always try to throw through my cutoff.
Yeah.
You rarely see me like air it out too much unless it's like, for like the game in Milwaukee where, that's the winning run. So, or a tying run. So, but yeah, I always just try to throw it through my cutoff. And, I know the infielder is like a nice, easy, long hop rather than, a short hop. So,
Yeah, all the outfielding coaches appreciate you saying that for sure, especially after some of those long throw highlights that you put out last year. Moving on to the next one, someone asked, "Where's your favorite spot to hit in the lineup?"
oh man. Honestly, anywhere from the 2 to 5 spot, I kind of moved around there. From July to the end of the season. I was hitting from anywhere from 2 to 5, sometimes leadoff spot. But anywhere that, I can use my speed at the top of the lineup and, swing it like I was during those months. I just being towards the top of the lineup is very, rewarding, especially a guy like me that, was a 9-hole hitter for most of my rookie season. Just seeing my name consistently up there in the lineup, gave me confidence. And, but yeah, anywhere from those spots.
Do you like hitting leadoff? I mean, I know it's a spot that kind of has jumped around from different players in the lineup, but is that a position in the lineup where you'd be comfortable in if you were put in that position?
100%. I mean, I hit leadoff quite a bit in the minor leagues and throughout my career, and with my speed, I think it's a pretty beneficial spot. If I can get on early in the game, first batter of the game, and maybe steal a couple of bases, get us in scoring position pretty early is would be huge. I think the biggest, I wouldn't say mental thing with the leadoff spot is whether you're going to swing at the first pitch of the game and stuff like that, especially away games. You always battle back and forth if you want to see a pitch or if you want to, first pitch hacking. But I definitely I am comfortable in the leadoff spot if it's called upon.
Nice. I love it. I love it. This next one comes from one of our listeners and consistent viewers. They ask, "What's your favorite Rockies jersey combination? And is there an old throwback Rockies jersey that you wish the team brought back?"
I really wish they'd bring back the black vests. I'm a sucker for black jerseys. I think they would look so clean. I understand, vests are hard to sell in stores and stuff, but even if it's like a black, just non-vest jersey, I think that would look really good with our purple and our silver. But you can't go wrong with the purple pinstripes.
God, yeah, I will say, I mean, I'm also a fan of the all black uniforms.
Yeah.
Despite having no interest in Chicago White Sox as a team, they're all
Yeah.
black with the white pinstripes are pretty sick. So we had this conversation on the show, a bunch when talking about like what's the new City Connect jersey is going to look like, that kind of thing. I've always been a fan of like, hey, bring back the black vest. That's the best way to go. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see those vests come back though. That'd be pretty sick.
Especially seeing all the old highlight videos of the black vests, I think they'd be sweet.
A classic for sure. You never know. We got a a new City Connect jersey coming out this year. We'll see which way they go with that. Another question, they asked, who's the best non-baseball athlete on the team other than baseball? Who's the best athlete on the team?
Wow. Man, I can go a lot of ways with this one. I think Charlie is definitely up there. Charlie's a guy that like he's just good at whatever he wants to be good at. And I'm in spring training. We used to have a basketball competition. It's just a little like around the horn kind of basketball competition. His jump shot is. I mean, I'm sure some NBA players would like to have his mechanics on his jump shot.
Wow.
I know Jordan Beck was a really good athlete too in high school. Really good basketball player, but probably one of those two guys.
I was going to say, I had heard a lot of guesses of people saying Nolan Jones too. Nolan Jones seems like the type of guy that would, dabble in a couple other sports pretty well.
Yeah, no doubt. I know he used to be a heck of a hockey player back in the day too. So a lot of props to him. I mean, I'm terrible on skates. So I would people who are good at skating.
Yeah, I know. I always say, I'm a firm. I will die on the hill that baseball is the hardest sport to play, like at a high level, from just a mechanic standpoint and stuff like that. But hockey I've started getting into hockey since I moved to Colorado and, watching the Avs and all of that kind of stuff. And hockey is just, it's unrealistic how competitive and how athletic some of these guys are while just like dancing around on skates. I still don't get it.
They're a different breed. I'm actually watching on Amazon. It's called Face Off, and it's kind of just like the behind the scenes of Stanley Cup playoffs last year, and it just kind of follows some of the guys, and it's really good watch.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I even just like when I was introduced to hockey, it was like, seeing Nathan McKinnon, skating at like 20 plus miles an hour and then stopping on a dime while, juggling a puck underneath his feet. Like it's insane to me. That's the one sport that I can kind of understand the argument as being harder than baseball. But last question here comes, specifically in the idea of the off season. What's your favorite off season activity that you like to do away from baseball?
Just spending time with my family, no matter what it is. I got a 3-year-old daughter, and whenever I can, be consistently home and spending time with her and my wife, that's my favorite thing to do in the off season.
Yeah, are you? Where's your home base right now? Where do you head in the off season?
I'm in Virginia.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a little bit outside of. Do you get back to Colorado at all, or do you spend the whole off season out in Virginia?
Spend most of the off season in Virginia, then I'll go out to Scottsdale pretty early before spring training just to get out of the cold weather and back onto a baseball field and back into the routine.
I know I was going to say, I'm like, there's not a lot of baseball opportunities out here in Colorado during the dead of winter, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, hey man, look, I'm going to wrap things up because I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. Enjoy the rest of your off season. I know it goes by really quick. Enjoy the time with your family, and thank you again for stopping by and talking with us for a little bit.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, man. That was Brenton Doyle. What a cool guy. Appreciate him taking the time to chat with us, and he had some great stuff to say. So we'll be definitely cutting up some of that, posting it on social media. If you missed anything, if you want to go back and watch, you can always check it out on YouTube. We'll have the full interview linked as well. But got to take a break and recognize some of our sponsors before we get into our next topics. Got to give a shout out to our friends over at Bet365, because at Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every single sport should be epic. And look, right now, it is a great time to be a sports fan. I say it every single show. There's so many great sports to bet on, whether you're into college basketball, football, college football, NBA, whatever it is. I know this weekend we got some big football games coming up, some college football stuff going on as well. CU, CSU, all the good ones. Plenty of good money lines to hit. I'm definitely taking CU tonight, this weekend. They've got a big game out in Kansas, so I'm excited to get to throw a couple bets out for them. But if you use promo code DNVR365 when you sign up, you deposit $10. You can choose between either a bet and get offer, place a bet of $5 or more, get $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer by placing a bet of up to $1,000. And if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a matched refund in bonus bets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, we also got to give some love to our friends over at Blue Chew, because if you're looking for an opportunity to kind of get back up on the horse, I know especially as a lot of us get older, we start to lose that confidence in the bedroom. Your body starts fighting back on you. I don't know if you saw Mike Tyson trying to fight Jake Paul. 58 years old, no matter how in shape you are, like your body just, age just catches up to you. And that's the same thing, especially when it comes to your sexual health. So make sure you stay on top of it. And Blue Chew is an incredible service to help you stay on top of that health, especially in the bedroom. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, but it's a fraction of the cost. And the best part about it is it's in a chewable form. So you don't have to worry about, any of the complicated kind of like pill varieties of anything like that. It's a chewable. The other really cool part about it is that it's all done online. BlueChew.com. You can go online. You don't have to sit through awkward waiting room, visits, talk to a doctor or anything like that. You can actually just go online to BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers over the internet, and you'll be able to pick up your prescription after that. So be sure to check out Blue Chew. They've got some incredible deals specifically for our listeners. If you try Blue Chew, you can try it for free when you use promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 in shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month for free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. All right, we are going to dive back in here in the DNVR Rockies podcast. We had just spoke with Brenton Doyle. What a great opportunity to get to hear just his thoughts on this last season. You know, some of his favorite memories, his experiences. I love that he actually used one of his robbing a home run plays as his favorite play, just because I think, there is nothing more exciting in all of outfield play as like robbing a home run. Like, yeah, diving catches are cool. And I don't want to take away anything from Brenton Doyle and, other outfielders who make incredible diving catches. But as someone who also played in the outfield, like I've made a handful of diving catches. Again, nowhere near Brenton Doyle's type of diving catches. But like a lot of times it's just like using your speed and agility and like momentum to just kind of like take you into the ball. Like you're running in on it and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to be able to catch this on the fly. Let me just like reach out. My momentum's taking me there. I dive, I make the catch. Like everyone cheers. It looks really cool. But from a technical standpoint, like there is nothing better than robbing a home run for the sheer fact of just like taking a literal home run away from someone. But also like you have to be kind of checking over your shoulder, looking at the wall, timing your run to get there. You have to time your jump. You have to know where you are. I mean, you look at Profar when he, robbed that home run with the Padres against the Dodgers in the playoffs, and he like went, robbed it with the fans there. Like it's just on another level. So shout out to Doyle and his memories of his experience playing in the outfield, because robbing home runs, and also like at the end of the year, it was literally like every single day. Like I remember Drew Goodman, the broadcaster for the Rockies, saying it's another home run that Brenton Doyle robbed. Like he robbed another one. He's doing it every single day. He's a walking highlight reel. So what a privilege we are as Rockies fans to get to enjoy Brenton Doyle. And I agree with him. There's some excitement to be had when you're looking forward to what's to come next year. Where are we headed as a franchise? And I talked about this earlier in the week. If we're looking at the reality of the situation, are the Rockies going to make the playoffs? Probably not. It would be a shocker if they did, and we're all here for that. If they pull a Kansas City Royals and just pop onto the scene and make a playoff. But realistically, next year's probably going to be a building year. I think where the excitement and the buzz comes from is the fact that the Rockies have some pieces that are finally starting to show up that we've been waiting on for years. Seth Halverson, Angel Shiviji, even Bradley Blaylock, who was a part of the trade that came over. Not a guy that we had been bouncing around in our farm system, but came over in the trade. And we said, hey, look, this guy has some good stuff. And he pitched against some of the best teams in baseball. And he really put it together. Kind of fell off towards the end of the season, but that's the way it is when that was your first big league, appearances in a Rockies uniform. So I'm excited for what we have. And we officially get to say that the Rockies' 40-man roster is solidified after they signed Jacob Stallings to a 2-year contract, or a 1-year contract with a mutual option for the second year. $2 million contract was his signing. Patrick Lyons talked about this on his show. The fact that Jacob Stallings has some bonuses that's written into his contract for games played, and that being a possibility for him to possibly, for the Rockies, I should say, to almost be setting themselves up to prioritize playing their young guys. I really like the way that they look at that as, incentivizing themselves to prioritize playing guys like Drew Romo, Hunter Goodman, or someone else in that catcher spot instead of Stallings, although Stallings will get a good amount of reps there because of his veteran presence. But if you look through the 40-man roster, and I'm not going to go through each player. You can go online, Rockies, you just type in 40-man roster for the Rockies on Instagram or on Google, and you'll see it. But I think if you're looking at the pitchers, if there are guys that I'm most excited to see this next year, and we're going to highlight some of these guys, again, Bradley Blaylock. And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. Like I've talked about him a lot. Noah Spyrick, who's on the show all the time, makes fun of me for saying, "Oh, you're a Bradley Blaylock fanboy. Like that's your guy." He is my guy. Like I saw his stuff, and I watched what he was able to do in his first couple outings for the Rockies, having never pitched or barely ever pitched in a big league uniform. before, going up against the best teams in baseball and throwing six innings pitched, 2 runs, multiple strikeouts, and looking like his mentality was his headspace was in the right spot. I'm excited to see Bradley Blaylock next year. I think he's going to be a part of the Rockies starting rotation. I think he will earn that spot in spring training, and I think he'll build on that as the season goes on. I'm obviously excited for Ryan Feltner. He showed himself to be one of the premier starters for the Rockies at the end of the season. I actually think he might end up being your number one go-to starter for the Rockies next year. I think, Freeland, he's had a lot of success for the Rockies. He'll still be a pretty solid guy, but his injuries have plagued him. His inconsistency, as Noah says, he's a kind of streaky pitcher at times. His blister has been tough. When Kyle Freeland is on, he's incredible, but it's just getting him to do that throughout the entirety of a season that's been tough. I think Ryan Feltner is going to be a guy that the Rockies can lean on really heavily. Out of the bullpen, I'm curious to see what Jimmy Herget does for the Rockies. He's just such a variable that I don't know what we're going to get from him yet. He could be one of those guys that's like a, holy crap, we got a guy. He just popped onto the scene and he's, just so weird and funky, the human glitch, that you just don't know what, like the batters just don't know what to do with that. He had a 2-point-something ERA, maybe a low 3 ERA when he was with the Angels in 2022. Like, he's a guy who can pitch pretty well. I just don't know what we're going to get from him this year for the Rockies. Obviously, Seth Halverson is probably if there's one guy that I'm most excited for out of the pen for the Rockies, it's Seth Halverson. He reminds me of pretty much the entire Dodgers closing unit. He's got the stuff to be a late inning playoff type pitcher where you can trust, hey, it's game 5 going up in the, NLDS, and we need you to come in and get 5 outs right now in a high leverage situation. I think he's going to be that guy when he grows into his role in this Rockies bullpen. So I see him being definitely a possible closer, but at least a good late innings reliever guy. But then if you look at the catchers, Hunter Goodman, Drew Romo, Jacob Stallings, I do think Drew Romo is going to end up being the more consistent young catcher for the Rockies. His bat was what held him back last year, but he's got the defensive presence to do that. Jacob Stallings is going to kind of lead the way, at least initially, until one of the young guys, Drew Romo or Hunter Goodman, kind of makes their mark. But then if you look at the infielders, Ryan McMahon, I think, has third base solidified. No surprises there. Brendan Rodgers is still on that 40-man roster, although his name has been tossed around a lot about what are the Rockies going to do with him. Are they going to move him? Are they going to trade him? Like, what does the future of that position look like? I really am interested to see what Aaron Schunk does next year. Schunk doesn't have a lot of power. He's not a guy who's going to blow you away. He had a couple home runs last year towards the end, but Schunk is more of a really good defensive second baseman who I think has the ability to be a really good utility piece for the Rockies. If he can get his batting average up, he is going to be a great late innings or a late lineup role player for the Rockies. I'm excited to see if Aaron Schunk can build on some stuff next year. Michael Toglia obviously going to have another great year if he stays healthy and continues to grow defensively. Ezekiel Tovar. And then if you jump to the outfield is stacked. You just heard Brenton Doyle talk about it, playing with guys like Nolan Jones, Jordan Beck. You've got even Sam Hilliard, who's coming back next year, who's a good outfielder. Is he going to be a guy that's going to be your starter? Probably not, but he's a good outfielder. Maybe he'll be your starter. I don't know. But then you're going to have, Greg Jones, Zach Veen, Yanquiel Fernandez. Doyle talked about getting to play with Zach Veen a little bit. I think these are guys that can really put together a cohesive outfield unit. I'm optimistic for what the Rockies' defensive set is going to look like next year. Offense, whole different story. That's going to have to be proven to us as time goes on. And the Rockies organization is going to have a tall task at getting their entire team set to be an offensive unit, a competitive offensive unit for next year. But I think from what we've seen so far, their defense is going to be stacked. So it's good to see how this 40-man roster has really evolved and gotten set up as we get set for next year. We get a really good idea of what we're going to see next year. And I talked about it on my last show when we were looking at the 2026 lineup prediction. Is this a team that's going to be competitive? I don't think it is next year, but if we can take a step in the right direction, if the Rockies can put together an organizational lineup that can build towards a team that is 500 next year, You know, if we're competing for 500, hell, if we're competing even to not be in last place in the NL West, and that's not a dig at the Rockies, that's a dig towards the NL West in a way, because the NL West is so damn competitive. I will die on this hill. The NL West is arguably the most competitive division in all of baseball, and especially right now, but I would even go back, years. The NL West is stacked. You talk about the Giants, a team that would be competitive in, I don't know, the AL Central, or the AL West. Like the Giants are no slouch, and they're not even close to a playoff spot last year. They're making moves in the offseason. They're getting themselves ready to have another good year. If the Rockies can compete with the San Francisco Giants for third place in the National League West next year, that's a step in the right direction for me. And that's not, again, saying we're bottom feeders, saying, oh, like whatever. Like the Rockies had back-to-back 100-loss seasons. Let's be realistic. This isn't a team that's going to go to the World Series next year. You're not the Texas Rangers. You're not even the Kansas City Royals yet. So let's take a step in the right direction. Let's start to, really develop some of these young guys. Get the team to a place where we feel like 2026 is a year where we can be competitive. Maybe we're a wild card team by 2026. That's pushing it. But if you really rely on some of these young guys and you embrace the youth movement, I think the Rockies have a chance to do that. Hey, after the break, Major League Baseball had a little announcement they made yesterday, as they announced they will be testing robo umps across spring training this upcoming year. And I want to break that down because I have a lot of opinions, as I always do, to get to coming up next. But before we do, got to give some love to our friends over at Game Time. There has never been a better time to be a fan of anything live events than right now. Whether you're into the sports world, which of course we all are, concerts, live events, theater, whatever it is, Game Time has you covered. They have some incredible deals. They have incredible app. Their layout, their design is great. It is really just the best place to go get your tickets. I've talked to so many people outside of DNVR, fans, friends, even family members who don't even live here in Colorado, who go to events and use Game Time as their app, their go-to place to go get tickets. The reason why is because not only do your tickets get cheaper as you get closer and closer to the event starting, but it's such an accessible and easy and enjoyable even experience that they make, that you can see, the app, kind of their layout on the right side of your screen. You can go to that Game Time Picks, and it shows you all the different deals from anywhere on the field. It gives you that 360 panoramic view, so you can click on a seat and say, am I going to be sitting behind a pole in this seat? That's the real important thing. You do not want to get a ticket where you're sitting behind a pole. Or if you're going to a Utah Hockey Club game, you're sitting in those one seats where you can't even see one goal. Like, with the Game Time app, you get rid of all of those variables. It is truly the best. So download the Game Time app today. You can create an account and use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Also got to give some love to our friends over at Coors Light, because Coors Light is the most refreshing light beer. And we had Friendsgiving the other day, and I remember saying, all right, someone better bring some damn Coors Light, because I do not want to get through a Friendsgiving without vibing with the Coors Light. And we got through like 3/4 of everyone showing up, and no one had Coors Light. I was tasked with bringing something else. That's why I didn't have the Coors Light with me. And we didn't have any Coors Light yet. And I'm thinking to myself, someone's going to have to go get some. Like, this is a party foul. Like, we can't do Friendsgiving without Coors Light. And then next thing you know, I don't remember who it was who brought it in. Do you remember who it was? I don't either. It just appeared. It did. It just appeared in a golden light as this mist, like you see on the Coors Light commercials. The train just bursts through the room, and and then it's Coors Light. That's how it was. All of a sudden, there's a Coors Light pack. Mountains are blue in the fridge, and it was like the greatest thing in the world, because Coors Light goes well in any situation, and especially when we're celebrating Friendsgiving with all of our friends and family, the DNVR family that we have come to love over these years. Love and hate. We love them. We hate them. We are a family here at DNVR. It is such a good time. And Coors Light just makes it that much better. So make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado. All right, back here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us, celebrating this beautiful Friday. It's a little chilly out there, but it is a beautiful Friday nonetheless. And we've got some news to break down. Major League Baseball announced that it will be debuting/testing robo umpires across 13 different spring training ballparks that could possibly go into effect in 2026. Now, there's a lot of things before I get into this. There's a lot of things that have to take place before this is actually a thing. First and foremost, Major League Baseball has a collective bargaining agreement that's up at the end of 2025. So they have to get through all of that. They have to make sure that they can even legally do all of this. All of that stuff is legal jargon. I'm not even going to worry about that. They'll figure it out. The other part of it is they have to make sure that this actually works for the players, the coaches, the umpires, like all of that. There will still be umpires out there on the field. It's just a different little wrinkle to all of this. Basically, how this would work is from what I understood from the article that I read, this is kind of what I understood, and I have the article pulled up here in front of me. It's part of a challenge system that Major League Baseball is implementing. Now, they didn't break it down in the specific, like what the challenges were going to look like, how many challenges people would get, what that would look like. It talked more about the logistics of the legal side of things on this. But to my understanding, there would still be an umpire, but teams could challenge whether or not it was a ball or strike. And they could, go to the technology to be able to say whether or not that was, in fact, a ball or a strike. Here's my take on this. I think if Major League Baseball does this right, it can be good. I actually have talked about this before on the show a while ago when I first started. I think this could be a good thing for baseball if they can get it right. Now, there are a lot of ways they could do this that are bad, and I don't think they will because there's too many hands involved to allow this to be bad in my opinion. But if you just give player or teams, a high number of challenges and say you can challenge 10 times in a game, balls and strikes, and you're just challenging nonstop, that would suck. And that I don't think that's going to happen. I think if that was to happen in spring training, Major League Baseball is going to look at that and be like, yeah, what the hell, this sucks. We're not doing this. So I don't think that would happen. And I think the other part of that would be if you're taking 20 minutes, because we've all been there when, an umpire is taking forever to challenge a call. If you're taking even 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, if you're taking more than just 30 seconds for these calls, it's going to slow the game down enough for where it gets annoying. Where I think they could do this right is if they said each team gets 1, maybe 2 at most challenges. I would even just say you get 1 challenge throughout the entire game if you get it right. And on top of that, whether you get it right or not, you lose it when you use it. So let's just say you get 1 challenge, and when you use it, win or lose, you completely lose it after that point. So you have to be very specific about when you call it, because I think what gets to me the most and where people get really upset about this is when the game's on the line in a super crucial moment in the game, and all of a sudden umpire calls a bad call, a terrible call, and the bases are loaded. They strike out looking, it was totally a ball, and you just lost that entire inning because of that 1 call. That's what I think you're trying to get away from. If you allow teams to have 1, maybe 2, even 3 challenges, but you lose them the minute you use them, whether you win or lose it, I think that limits teams just challenging every single time there's a bad, ball or a strike. And so you've got to limit it in that timing perspective. And it also has to get the technology to a point where it should be 30 seconds. The umpire should say, all right, time. We got a challenge from the Rockies. Bud Black challenged it. All right, let me listen in real quick. They put the headset on in 10 seconds. Okay, that's what the call is. We go back. It was a strike. Game on. It needs to be less than a minute. So I don't know what this is going to look like. They're going to test all of this out in spring training. It's the right place for them to test that out. To my understanding, also they have tested and experimented with automated ball and strike system. Which has been debuted in the minor leagues, but they're still kind of working to shape the strike zone. Again, I don't really know what that means from a, logistic standpoint. They got all technical into where the ball crosses the plane of the plate. And, again, this is a bunch of nerds who do a really good job of figuring all of this stuff out. that's way beyond my head, way beyond my pay grade. But it is something we're going to pay a lot of attention to come this spring training. There's going to be a lot of things we pay attention to in spring training, but that is going to be one of those things that we're keeping an eye on. And it's going to be a weird spring training because we're going to have so many guys that we, are looking to keep an eye on for the Rockies. So many prospects, so many young players, guys that we saw last year that kind of fizzled out. What is Chris Bryant going to look like in spring training? Like, so many questions. And then you throw this in there. Don't forget, they also were testing the check swing situation in the minor leagues as well, or in spring training. They tested it in the fall league, the Arizona Fall League, and a couple strikes or balls, check swings, were overturned in the Arizona Fall League. So it's fascinating what they're doing right now. But I'm a big advocator for change in sports in general, but especially baseball. Baseball is up against it right now. You've got the NFL, you've got NBA, you've got NHL, which is on the rise. You've got other sports that are coming up. College sports are picking up. And I love baseball, and baseball, I will argue with any other non-baseball fan saying that baseball is bigger than most people still think it is. Baseball is still one of the premier sports in the U.S. and nationally too. I mean, look at where baseball went in Japan and in a lot of the Hispanic communities and countries. It is a huge sport still. I'm not taking that away. However, baseball still needs to evolve and adapt. The world is getting faster. People like the faster sports. They like the intensity. They like that we've had shorter games. Everyone except for Hank likes that we have shorter games. Hank's the only one who wants 5-hour games because he's a psycho. He is. Good for him though. But yeah, so I like baseball making the adjustments that they need to adjust and improve and adapt to the world of sports and the viewing world, the streaming / TV / all of that kind of stuff. So if you can get me to a place where Angel Hernandez isn't ruining baseball games for me because you have the ability to challenge meaningful plays. God, I remember, I'm going down a rabbit hole here. I remember one of my favorite Bud Black moments of last year. I posted a video of it. It was a long time ago. But I don't think Bud Black got ejected from this game. I don't think he got ejected from this game. But it was a hot mic moment for Bud Black where he runs out onto the field and he gets all in the face of one of the umpires, and he looks him in the face and he goes, those balls were not balls, those strikes were not strikes, or those balls were not low and those strikes were not high. Whatever he said. And you caught every single word of it. And I'm just like, there you go. That's just saying it as it is. No fluff. Just those last two pitches, they were down. Those other two pitches, they were up. You suck at your job. Let's move on. It's I love that. But the robo umpires would give a little more power to the coaches, to the teams, and it just allows you to not ruin a game based off of that. So I don't know, just an interesting situation there. Major League Baseball has been tossing around. We've been talking about robo umpires for years. But after the break, going to take a break, wrap up the show here. Got to talk a little about some MVP voting stuff because we had a Rocky who got some MVP votes. My goodness. And I want to, share some predictions on who I think might progress into getting some future MVP votes in the future. I need to stop saying that though. So let's hit an ad break. Got to give some love to our friends over at Saturday Neon because Saturday Neon's a really fascinating company. They have done incredible work at basically making really dope looking signs at a neon that can go well in any space. Your dorm room, your what is it? Your sports den in the bottom of your house. Your bars. What did you say? Your man cave. That's the word. I was like your den. I mean that works too, but your man cave. That's what I was going. Your man cave. It is just such a cool thing. I know in the bar downstairs we have CSU, CU ones. It was started by 2 CU Buff alums, so I'm sure they were a little hesitant to throw those CSU neon signs up there, but it's business. That's the way it goes. So whatever your signs, whatever you're into, they've got you covered. They've got their new essentials collection featuring almost 50 of their biggest schools across the country and counting. For only $75. That's a great deal also. $75. My God, that's 2 meals at McDonald's nowadays. That's solid. You could get a whole sign for $75. They've got Utes signs as well. I mean, it's really cool. And unlike traditional neon, these LED signs, they won't break or shatter, but they still give you that classic uniform glow that you know and love. They last up to 100,000 hours, which is, I don't know, the length of the baseball games that Hank likes to watch. Like it's a long time. So they've got some really cool stuff over at Saturday Neon. We've used them in our studios, and they look incredible. So use code DNVR if you want to check that out. You can use code DNVR for 10% off your order at SaturdayNeon.com. All right, got to give some love to our friends over at Circle K. It's time to talk about that Circle K Inner Circle, because Circle K is more than just a gas station. They have snacks, food, drinks, and you can get even more now with that Circle K Inner Circle free membership. I stopped at Circle K when we were driving back from a little road trip out to Alamosa a couple weeks ago, and I was able to pick up not only some great gas, got good deals, 25 cents off per gallon over at Circle K with their Inner Circle membership and app. But I also, we stocked up on the road trip snacks. We had to, it's a 3.5 hour drive out to San Luis and Alamosa. Like, you got to have some good snacks for the road. And so Circle K, they have some great deals. There's so many of them too. They're everywhere. Like, I feel like I can't drive more than, 5 miles without seeing a Circle K. And there's a reason for that. They have really, really good stuff. It's more than just a gas station, as I just said. So they've got deals on food, drinks, and more. But if you sign up for the Inner Circle with the Circle K app, you can receive 25 cents off per gallon on your next 5 fill-ups. Find it in the app under Inner Circle/offers. Download the Circle K app and join that Inner Circle for exclusive offers. Purchase clubs and sweepstakes are uploaded weekly. All right, let's wrap up here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. We got the privilege of speaking to Brenton Doyle earlier in the show. Again, if you missed that, we will have that up on YouTube, on Twitter. We'll clip some of that stuff. Like, we'll have content churning for a while. We've got all that good stuff. So if you missed it earlier, go back and watch it. We've got the recording up already, but you can go back and watch it on YouTube, or we'll start posting that. You can follow us on Twitter at DNVR_Rockies, or you can follow me on Twitter at CJJ Saez. But I got to talk a little bit as well about our good friend Ezequiel Tovar, because he picked up a couple MVP votes. I think it was 3 MVP votes that he picked up in this last MVP ballot, which was cool. I mean, hey, a Rockies guy was on the list. The last time that happened was, I believe, Nolan Arenado, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. I think it was over 5 years that a Rocky hasn't been, at least recognized on the MVP voting. So regardless of that, though, I want to look more towards the future of the MVP voting. I'd love to be able to say that there is a situation in which a Rockies player will win the MVP. And I'm not going to say, I'll never say never, but if you look at some of the other guys in the National League, maybe a pretty good player who happens to pitch and hit and plays for the Dodgers and has like 1 billion people that love him in Shohei Ohtani, he's a pretty big name in baseball right now. He might hold on to it. He's kind of the Nikola Jokic of baseball at the moment. So he might hold on to that. Yeah, never heard of him. I know. Maybe we can be the Joel Embiid to the argument, and we'll find someone like that. Although Embiid's a mess right now, we won't go into that. But yeah, too much to get into here. But Shohei Ohtani's going to probably hold on to that NL MVP for a while. Now, depending on if he gets hurt, whatever, someone else might compete for that. But I think realistically, if we're talking, is there going to be a Rockies player that can be an MVP? There's a lot of things that have to go right before one of our guys can get there. And that is not a knock on our guys. That's just the reality of it. But I don't want to just say this just because he was just on the show. But if you look at the progression that Brenton Doyle has had as a player across Major League Baseball, and it doesn't help that he's played on a losing team recently. Hopefully that changes over the next couple of years. But I think Brenton Doyle can end up being like a Nolan Arenado type of figure here in Colorado. He's already on pace. Yeah, his rookie season, like, he didn't get going, I think, as quickly as he had hoped offensively. Like I said, he had like a 206 average, I think 10 home runs, something like that. Nothing going to blow your socks off. But he got a lot better last season. He had 260 batting average, 20-plus home runs, 20-plus stolen bases. He was a great early lineup hitter. And then his defense obviously spoke for itself. Won a Fielding Bible Award, won a Gold Glove, second Gold Glove. If there's a guy that's going to get the MVP votes moving forward, though, I do think it's going to be Brenton Doyle. Yeah, Ezekiel Tovar has been more of a dual threat in his first couple years with his bat and his glove. But Tovar's just so clean and consistent. I actually said that I think that is more of a knock on him in the Gold Glove votes or the Platinum Glove votes, because his stats are incredible, but he's not as flashy as like Nolan Arenado is or Shohei Ohtani is, or, some of these other guys who like goes beyond just playing really good defense and being a good bat. Like he's beyond, he's just consistent. And that is great. You love to have a guy who's consistent in your lineup. But Tovar is more of just even keeled. I think Doyle has the chance to just like burst out and have just like he's batting 320 by the end of the season, and he's hitting 33 home runs, and he's winning another Gold Glove, and he's going to the All-Star game. And like, I think that could be, Brenton Doyle. Like, I think that's the type of season he could have next year. And I think because he puts it all together, because, Aaron Judge won the AL MVP. Aaron Judge is a great hitter, hits 1,000 home runs, but the dude is not winning. He's not going to win you Gold Glove after Gold Glove after Gold Glove. He's not known for his defense. He's not known for a lot of other factors on the field. I know he, I guess has some decent defensive stats where like he didn't have a lot of errors or any errors going into that game that he dropped that routine fly ball in the World Series. But he's not known for that. Like, he is not doing what Brenton Doyle does in the outfield. That is not what Aaron Judge is known for. So I think the depth that Brenton Doyle plays at defensively and offensively, or possibly with his bat, I think gives him a better chance to possibly become more of that Nolan Arenado type of player for the Rockies, where he becomes that guy where you're like, man, the dude, like, we all know him. Even if you're not a Rockies fan, even if you don't live in Colorado, even if you don't know the Rockies, you know who Brenton Doyle is. I would make the argument when Nolan Arenado was in his prime, despite the Rockies not winning after that 2017-2018 season, people knew who Nolan Arenado was. He was synonymous with the Colorado Rockies team. Brenton Doyle, I think, will become that guy for the Rockies. Tovar, he's become a really great player, but he's just not, like I said, not as flashy. He's also not as forward as Doyle is. Doyle is more... he's more of a social presence, I would say. And that's, again, not a knock on Tovar. Like, Tovar, keeps his work on the field. He's very respectful when he speaks to us. He does a good job in interviews, but he's very serious and very focused on just, letting his work speak for him. Doyle is more, I think, willing to kind of jump in and have these interviews and do that kind of stuff. And so he just becomes more kind of well-known beyond just the Rockies fan base. People kind of know who he is a little bit more. We saw him on MLB Network a bunch when he won, Player of the Month for the month of July, like those kind of things, So I think, again, it's great to have Tovar, Ryan McMahon, guys like that are just so good in what they do. And Doyle, I think, is showing that he's going above and beyond that. And hopefully he can stay healthy, have another great season next year, and be looking at, probably a pretty nice contract. And that's something we're going to talk about. We'll get a little, we'll get a little conversational about that as this offseason progresses, of like, hey, what does that look like? The Rockies gave Tovar a big fat contract, right after he had that great first season for the Rockies. Does Doyle get that? Is Doyle going to be the next guy that gets to the $100+ million, $200 million, maybe even at some point? Like, who knows? He's worth it. And to be honest, if the Rockies don't pay him, someone else will. But I do think the Rockies know what they have. They know the value that Brenton Doyle gives to this team. I have faith that the Rockies will make the right decision. I do. I really do. You can hate me for it, but I think the Rockies will make the right decision. But that's down the road. We got plenty more time to talk about that. But we're going to wrap things up here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. As I said earlier, if you missed any of our interview with Brenton Doyle from earlier in the show, we'll have that up here shortly on social. But as always, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We are going to be going to one show a week starting next week. Our show will be on Wednesday at 12:15. As we kind of shift our focus, we'll be doing a little more writing, a little more feature, focus, more interviews, that kind of stuff, as opposed to just churning out live shows. We'll be kind of focused more on throughout the offseason, kind of getting you more of a package deal with that show. In the future, the shows will be on Friday at 12:15, but starting next week, we'll just have next week's show at Wednesday at 12:15 before the holiday. That's why it'll be on Wednesday. So I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to getting some more interviews of some players and kind of doing some deeper dives with some of these guys. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to be able to do all of this with you guys. And shout out to all of you that hung out with us in the chat and enjoyed watching Brenton and celebrating a little Rockies baseball here in this off season. Shout out to super producer Tiff for hanging out with us as always. And we appreciate you guys. Have a good weekend, and we will talk to you guys next week right here from the DNVR Rockies podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.